let's if you've used default properties, if you would just give me some sort of reaction in the chat channel, that would be fantastic. This is one of my favorites as well. So I'm a huge fan. Yeah, big time. I get that.
Yeah,
You
it's
do.
like one of those little things that you don't really think
Mm-hmm.
about. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's easy, but it ends up saving you so much time that you
So
don't even
much time.
realize.
Yeah, it's a one and done. Absolutely, John. I see you as well. Vivian's asking if you can do this for fonts,
So you
setting default properties for fonts.
so that's a good question. You can't set it for fonts,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have 2025.2, or did it come out in one? There's custom themes. And so let's say, where was it? I've made a few of these. You can either import a custom theme or you can create one. So if you went through and formatted everything specifically in the workbook, like right now I have it set to Poppins, and I could alter these other ones as well, like for the worksheets and tooltips and the font size and whatnot. You can go up to
Awesome.
format and import, or I mean, sorry, export custom theme, and it's going to create a JSON, and it's just going to have that theme. So whatever formatting specifications, it's a little limited, but for the most part, it carries through, especially with different color palettes and font weights and sizing and types.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
that'll
I don't know
apply.
if you're seeing chat, but she's saying cool and thanks, by the way,
Oh,
Lauren.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Vivian. Great question.
Yeah, I should have added that in there too.
Well, there's so much.
Yeah, and it's funny, like you don't even realize that it's a trick because you're just trying to, especially if you're on a deadline,
Mm-hmm,
you're just trying
mm-hmm.
to get stuff done. And
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so yeah, that's for the default properties of the number format. I also find that color is really useful. So let's say I wanted conditional formatting and just to like show if there's any negatives. So sales isn't a great example, but for profit, if I go to color, and I'm just going to make this custom diverging. If it's negative, I want it to be red. If it's positive, I want it to be green. And all you need to say is -1 and 1. And then we'll change the step size to 2.
That's good.
So instead of doing calculated field, which this would work for that as well, this already has it defaulted. So now we'll bring out profit. You'll click on measure values on the marks card. And we want to set these to the color. Use separate legends. And here profit is green. So it already has that set up, whereas I didn't set it up for sales.
Mm-hmm,
So it's not showing
mm-hmm.
anything. And if I change that to text, measure values on text, it'll color the number
Well, that's awesome.
value.
Yeah, I'm not sure that use separate legends is also well known. I find that that's less known. So that's great to show that as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Has anyone tried that out? I found it a while ago and it blew my mind.
Oh, you mean with the custom color is what you're talking about?
Yeah, the color and then doing the separate legends for the measures.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it really vibes with my one sheet philosophy. If I can fit everything into one sheet. Thankfully, map layers has like made that a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah, to be sure. Awesome. I hope you have your chat channel open. You're getting lots of feedback. So,
Oh yeah, actually I don't. Cool.
awesome.
All right, so the next one is using folders and fields lists. So a lot of times the default is to have everything set up as group by data source table. And you can see my different sheets or tables. But as you're creating a lot of calculations, or you have a bunch of tables and maybe some of them are similar, like you have things joined on a certain date, well, you really only need one of those date fields. So it's good to just like go through for like data hygiene, clean everything up. And I found that navigating folders is a lot easier because you can customize it. Like I have where I'm using my calendar points or specific graphs that have particular um, fields that I've created for them, and then it can be a mess. And you can search for things, but sometimes it's better just to have everything grouped together. So it's saved me a lot of time. Just as I'm revisiting projects, especially like if someone asks for updates and I'm like, oh, I don't remember this client anymore. So I can go through these folders and be like, oh, that's where that calculation is.
And just to reiterate, how did you create those folders, those custom folders? How'd you
Oh
get that
yeah.
started?
So if you go to the fields list near the search bar, there's that little caret. You select that and then do group by folder instead of the group by data source table.
Mhm. And then your custom folders, how do you add those?
So to create the folders, you would right click on one of the fields. It can be a dimension or a measure calculated field. And then you can either add it to another folder, remove folder. And if it isn't already foldered, so let's say I remove this from the folder. You
Mm,
go back and now I can create a new folder and it'll put it in there. And then it's all
got it.
alphabetically sorted.
And there's a question in chat about needing to have a unique column name under each folder name. So you wouldn't place, and I assume that means that you wouldn't, the question behind the question is you're placing things only in one folder, not in multiple places, correct?
Right. Yeah. You can only have it. I mean, you can make a calculated field and just replicate that same field and put it in a different folder, but it would
Mm-hmm.
have to be named slightly different,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I also have a trick for that. It can get kind of confusing, so I don't necessarily recommend it. But let's say you need a calculated field also called date, but it won't let you because there's already a field called date.
Mm-hmm.
If you add a space, it'll
Okay,
let you
that
have
is
a name.
that a trick or is that a hack? I'm just asking for a friend over here.
Maybe a little of both, a little column A and column B.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's great.
I've
So
done this.
David, in chat, David has said something about being careful not to lose all the folder assignments when replacing data sources. Is that connecting to
Oh,
anything you've experienced?
yeah, that happens a lot. It's really, really annoying. It's like I don't know why it can't, like I'm just reconnecting or replacing references. I don't know why it can't remember. Um, that's where I usually make these on the workbook level. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because that way, if you're connecting to a published data source and you make changes to that published data source, you won't lose all the folders. But if you need the folders across multiple workbooks, then you should do it in the data source. But a lot of times, if you're making like certain charts or calculated fields that only pertain to like one report, it's just easier to make that in the
Mhm.
workbook. And then you can
Mhm.
always go back to that workbook and take out those calculations if you need them for other projects. Oh, and with that trick with the space, I usually use that when I want, like, let's say we have sales that we brought out, and on the legend or on the axis, I want it to be in the format of like millions instead of like the full value. I would just duplicate sales as a calculated field, name the same way, do that space, and then have that the default formatting of that version of sales
Mm.
not be the full.
Got it.
Which actually, that's another. So let's say you want a shorter version of the sales value,
Mhm.
but sometimes it's in millions, sometimes it's in thousands, depending on the order or the customer. You can actually make dynamic calculations where sales will format according, like will default to the format that it fits. So, and I've used this a lot. So we're going to say if the sum of sales is less than 1 million, and I'll call this, oh, sales K, just so we don't lose track of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And then you can give it its own default properties.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And then the million, if it's greater than or equal to, now if I add this to the marks card on text, and we'll remove profit, and we'll change those default properties. So I want the display units to be in the thousands for this one. And millions for this one.
Mhm.
And since this is a million or over a million, it knows to use that 2.3 M instead of in the K. And then we could just clean up our tooltips. So we would remove that. You put these right next to each other so it doesn't give a weird space in the tooltip.
Oh, interesting.
And if we bring out, like, let's do order date. See, now they're in the thousands.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that gets it curated and ready for someone, especially like if you've got folks on the cloud environment that don't have a lot of well, it would just get things staged very nicely for folks, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good
Yeah.
for KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Oh
you just
yeah.
wanted that value, if you wanted it
Mm-hmm.
to change, because maybe you have a lot of KPIs or not a lot of real estate on your dashboard, it kind of shortens that number. And then you have more room for other stuff.
Right on. Just curious of our group that's here, has anybody ever done such a thing where they have the different levels of aggregation pre-staged in their data set for in the data pane?
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
Looks
Yeah,
like it's
good to
me.
know. Yeah, good to hear.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
the other
Lauren.
is that I like to add the like normal sales value that I've like with the full value
Mm-hmm.
um, into the tooltip. So let's say a user, you have it shortened here, but I still want to see like down to the 10th of a or 100th of a cent or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can hover over, and if you adjust the formatting on the other one, it'll let you do that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, this is my favorite. When I did Iron Viz last year, I I spent a lot of time trying to figure out because it was when it just came out
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't really anything out there about well what size is like what are the min and max sizing dimensions that you can use to make these actually show up because sometimes and I added in a few that don't work. Yeah, because the sizing is a little off. I found that um, it's like 300 by 400 works or 200 by 200. You just can't go over 400 pixels. But yeah, I like to add the custom image URLs. The thing with those is that there are a few things that you need. So we need these URLs to exist in the data set and they need to connect to something in our like raw data. So like this is the orders table from Superstore. So
Mm-hmm.
I took the whole list of subcategories and I have that as another tab. So if we look at here, here's my data set that orders. And then I have another tab in Excel, and this could be another table in your database where it's just all of those subcategories and then the image URL.
Right. And did you get these images from Google somewhere as examples?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
threw random ones.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that makes sense. So I think there's a question in chat about that. And then also, what if the URL is dynamic? I'm not even sure what you mean by that, Susan. If it's where you could put a variable in the URL to select the certain item.
so the image URL is a little different.
Oh,
Um,
if it's updated by source. Got it.
yeah, you have to have it because you can do that with the URL like actions where you like put in subcategory or something and it can go and grab it. This one, if it's in the data set, you need to have it in a cloud environment. So like a repository to host all of these. I use Cloudinary because it's free. I've been using it a lot. Oh, and you can see like some of my Lego ones. But yeah, just it has to be hosted in a central like cloud repository. So here are all my images. If I wanted to upload another one, and I was just doing the image search, but let's say so I'd upload this donut. Then I go to edit. We can resize and crop. That donut looks pretty good.
It looks really good.
And then I already have these templates saved. So this image URL image or template. And then it already has some of those dimensions that I
Mhm.
mentioned. And then
I,
after
I
you
think
apply, oh, sorry.
no, please go ahead. I have a
So
question when you're
after,
done.
okay. Yeah, after you apply the template, you just go up here and you copy the URL and you would paste it or upload it wherever you're connecting to those image URLs.
Mhm.
So with the image URLs, I also like to use these when I'm showing like maybe a profile, like someone's profile photo, if you're doing some kind of like employee tracker or performance or like sales performance for that regional manager. Especially if you're embedding in a portal, then it kind of makes it feel more like it's better integrated with like a portal UI and UX. I don't know if anyone remembers Clippy from Microsoft Office a million years ago, but I thought that was funny. Has anyone used the image URLs or run into any issues or have questions about them?
I shared Cloudinary in the prior chat, and then also we had the image sizes that you were recommending.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm always happy to share those kind of resources because it took me a while to find all that. So
Mm-hmm.
cool. Okay. I'll get into sets. And Celia, I know you've probably run into this a lot with your trainings where you're showing sets or parameters and then people ask, what is a set? Because I get
I
that
actually
too.
just this week revised how I teach sets. So let me put this back in the chat. If you recommended 200 by 200 or 300 by 400. What was there was two sets that you said in terms of dimensions for the URL image size?
Oh yeah, so I do you can do 200 by 200 if it's smaller. If you need something that's a little bigger, maybe it's higher resolution. I would do 300 by 400 or 300 by 300. It's not an exact science, it's just within that realm. Usually works.
And the you have found that Cloudinary works well for a free posting site, yes?
Yes, yeah. And it allows you to make those adjustments to the sizing. And if you need to
Mm-hmm.
look up, photos, then it'll let you upload like that.
Yeah, I find when I've been using custom shapes, the tools to change the size of an image are some of those things that just, being a former programmer, those resources are always really super helpful to hear about. So, 'cause that
Oh,
was never my world.
yeah, I
Okay.
used to use like PowerPoint, but that doesn't really
I
work as well.
tried to use 3D art and such like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, so tell us about this, using sets for easier filtering.
So um, with sets, let's say you have all of these filters. And for some reason it wasn't working earlier, but let's see. I was just doing this yesterday. So I have all of these filters. There's my category. They don't necessarily have to be in context. I just have them like that right now. I might remove those. If you bring out order ID and then filter, because that's our unique identifier. And let's say like, oh, this really works with, like I used a lot in accounting data because let's say we have a group of account codes that belong to a certain like category of or cost category, you'd have to like recreate that every time, or put it in your calculated field, and then it ends up being a really long calculated field. But if I just wanted the ones out of here, which it's not working right now, but let's say I just want the ship mode. We can create a set. I just want ship that same day. Because you can create sets from over here too if you select, like, let's say category, create a set. But if you already have a filter applied, and let's say it's something really long and it kind of took more time to pick out from the list, depending on the field that you're filtering. This way you can just make that selection once, and then you can apply it to future worksheets. Or if you need it in a calculation, so you don't want to apply the filters on the worksheet, you just want them to be applied within the calculation. You can create a calculated field. And let's say if, in this case, ship mode is in the ship mode set. Then sales. And in this case, this was the same day set. Now if I remove I'm just going to remove that same day. So it's showing only the values where the ship mode was.
Interesting. That like pulls out and segments it that way. Yeah, like measure isolation of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And then you can use that in several calculations. And that way you don't have to, let's say you had like 5 or more items that you were selecting from that filter, and you need to put that, you wanted to do the same thing here, but you'd have to go through and say ship mode equals this, else if, or, and something like that, baking in that specific logic. And then your calculation ends up being a lot clunkier. It impacts performance overall, especially if you're making a lot of those. And especially if it's a string field, because that's the hardest for Tableau to compute. So it's just, it makes things more efficient, and it's easier to maintain. Because if I wanted to change those items in the ship mode set, let's say I wanted to add in another one or something, I would just have to change that in one place instead of having to go through potentially multiple calculations and then change the text. Or maybe in the data set that string value changes or something gets messed up and an extra space is added. Then these calculations would break because you're saying ship mode equals same day, but now same day is lowercase or something. So it's also easier to maintain.
And say those comments you made about performance again, because I feel like that's one of those. Is the larger the data set, the more important that becomes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So with a couple of the best tricks for performance, like using sets when you're using the if-then logic. If it's a string field, especially, that's the hardest to compute. So it's like when you're using parameters, for example, and let's say you have a list and it's not like an enormous list from one of your fields, but it just like if you want dynamic measure selections, so you select from the parameter and you want to see sales or profit or the number of orders. Instead of doing orders, sales, profit, you would do 1, 2, 3, and then you can alias them as sales, orders, profit, but it'll make everything faster because it's just having to read a float or integer value instead of having to read a whole string. So it's just like that number of characters. It's easier for Tableau to read it on the back end, so everything appears on the front end faster.
Awesome. So just so for our crew that's here, do you use sets much? Have you guys found ways to implement them? Got a chat pulse up, a question up there. And the in function, yes. That's also a good one, isn't it? Yeah. Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's one of those hidden functions
Mm-hmm.
that don't get used a lot because they're
Yeah.
really unique to sets.
Or in a list is also, I've used it with that and created in the calculated fields. Yeah. And feel like that's
Oh yeah, you can
a
do that.
SQL standard, to be fair, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I used that the other day, but I remember using it when I did more SQL, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even realize you could do that in Tableau. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's a lot faster than saying, this equals this equals this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And essentially you're just creating a set in a calculated field without creating a set here when you do that. Oh, and sets are also handy if you're making, like, let's say we have a map. I had it in customer info. So let's bring out postal code and the state. Oh, and this data set doesn't have Alaska and Hawaii. Kind of surprised. But this is something that's useful for when you have filter actions on the dashboard. And let's say you want to be able to select a state, but you have another map view and you realize, oh, it cleared out my state filter. Say I wanted to exclude Hawaii and Alaska because I want those to be two other sheets that are just Hawaii and Alaska, just so that you get, because a lot of times this map, it'll get crazy because Alaska is like half of the US, so like the sizing gets all weird. So if you want to just split those out, it can work a lot better, and then you get a better view, or like zoomed view of the continental US. But when you select like Oregon or Washington or one of the other states, it'll clear that filter that you have on those views that are just Alaska or Hawaii. But with sets, we can make a state set. So if we go back to our customers, we create a set. So if I just want this one to be Florida, it'll just be Florida. Because I don't have just from the state field.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't default to that whole US view.
Cool.
So yeah. Oh, I know we only have 15 minutes, so I'll try to go through these other ones a little faster. So this is a good one. Let's say you have just trying to think of, okay, we'll add an order ID. So I don't want to rename this field, but I want the column where this field is being displayed in this particular worksheet to be called something differently or named something differently. If you double click on the rows shelf, or the pill in the rows shelf, and then you do // and I'm just going to call this order, and then do Shift Enter and enter again. And now it's changed how that field is being like aliased almost, but it's not really an alias because it's only in this worksheet. But that way the label, you can customize it more.
This is one I've been like waiting for sure.
Yeah, the map.
I'm super done with doing donuts the other way.
I know, I'm still waiting for it to be in the show me. That's
Uh-huh.
fine. I've been asking
Yes.
for it for like 8 years. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Tableau gave us the map layers, so I
Yeah.
think that's even better. To make the donut, you need to create a calculated field where we have a make point, so that's a spatial calc, and you just put 1, 1, 0, 0. As long as they're the same, it'll make sure that it's in the center of the view. Then we'll bring that out like you would another geo field. We change this to a pi. And then we bring out the same donut point again. And I make both of these a pi because you don't have to put any like angles or other colors in there when you're trying to make the center of the donut. It just, sometimes the axis can get weird when it's a circle over a pi. So it's just easier to make sure that it's consistent. Now if I go up to map and the background maps, I just select none because we really don't need those. Entire view. We can hide the latitude and longitude, X and Y. Then we'll adjust the size. So the order of these different marks cards for the map layers are important because the one on the top is actually going to sit on top of the other donut. Otherwise, it'll get hidden behind it. So let's make the bottom layer a little bit bigger. Can't really tell right now because it's the same color. So if we go to our product info, we can add in, let's do the subcategory. Oh, that breaks my rule though. My rule is no more than 5 values should be showing.
Yes. Good. You and I were about to have a big debate right here. Just saying.
Oh yeah, no. I would not.
I'm just kidding.
Trying to practice what I preach. Oh, that's right. We need angle. So now if we do, let's just do our sales. bring that to angle. Oh, and you know what? I told you wrong. Let's do that as light.
So you still have good control to put a KPI in the center. Yes.
Yeah, so if we want to see like all of sales, and this is where we'll bring in those the K and M.
Mhm.
Now we have the KPI in the center. The angle, I think maybe oh, that's what was going on. Sorry. Put the sum of sales on size, not angle. I was making some other map layer charts earlier. And it looks like, oh, these are very similar.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty similar.
Maybe we can try, oh, that looks a
There
little
you
better.
go. Yeah.
Using quantity for this data set made it look a little better.
Shows a little bit more difference between the three components. That's good.
Yeah. And you can go in and add, the quantity on the label like you normally would. And then let's add category too. Now if I create a dashboard, and this is the best part of the donut. I just have to, there it is.
So the resizing on this is what I've heard is better. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is a lot better with the resizing.
Mm-hmm. And did you do entire view on the worksheet? You did, right? I think you did.
So when we're
Oh,
doing the
you,
map, it
oh, you
doesn't
didn't
have
have
entire
to.
view.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because we're a map. We're not doing the other. So great. Well, the sizing on that on the dashboard is so much more appropriate. That's something we've all struggled with, I think.
Oh yeah,
It's
with the pie,
good.
and then you have to make multiple pies, or I mean donuts, and you're trying to make sure that the sizing is the same as like the other 6 donuts that you made. And then you added another one, you have to resize all of them because you realize, oh no, none of these donuts are gonna fit. So this makes that the whole process a lot easier.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So if there are a few of these, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but next month we're gonna do adventures and map layers. So that donut map layer solution was like a taste of that. I'll go through like calendars, and my one sheet KPIs. I actually have this on my Tableau public right now. If you want to download, I have a table and KPIs the table is all one sheet, with different measure types, kind of like this, or marks types. And then this KPI is all one sheet.
That's great.
So yeah, we'll definitely go through. I'm excited to go through those next month, especially since the dashboard's already ready. So
Yeah, I think that this one's super valuable, by the way, if you're picking a few for the last minutes here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I really like using this one. So with index, let's say you have, okay, I'm going to put region and some other dimensions, segment. All right, so I have three, let's just say you have more than one or two dimensions on the rows. If you try to sort just region the traditional way, you're also going to have to do a nested sort to sort relative within that region or segment or whatever your dimensions might be. And it can be really annoying and trying to figure out all of those filtering. So what I do is I create a calculated field called index, and it's just index, that function. We're going to make this discrete, drag it out to be the first pill on the rows. Then we go, well, first let me bring in measure. Let's bring in sales. Now, if we go to edit table calculation, specific dimensions, have all of those selected. And we can do custom, and let's say I want it to be the sum of sales descending. And now I get an accurate view of who truly has the most sales based on these criteria. And it looks like the East consumer standard class ship mode has the most sales. And that was a lot faster than trying to, do all the nested sorting.
Mm-hmm.
This is also great for if you want to do top 5 or top 10, because we can come up here after we've already applied that edit table calculation. And we just filter, and I tell it I'm going to do top 5. Then okay.
Got it. Well, good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now you have that top 5, and if you apply other filters, it's not going to impact that top 5 because that's always calculated. This is always calculated last, so you're always truly getting a top 5 of whatever other filters or subset of data that you're trying to create. Otherwise, the traditional top, where you're just doing it from the dimension, if you don't apply new filters or existing filters to context, then those won't, those will be applied after this one potentially, and then you're not getting a true top 10. That's why sometimes you get 5 rows when there are more than 5.
So thank you. Well, I'm pleased to hear that you're planning toward the map layers for our October session. That's going to be brilliant and super timely. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for hanging in there with us today and for your joining in the chat to discuss what you've been trying and giving us feedback as we go along. Again, unbelievable interruptions. So sorry. Don't even know what to say except for thank you for hanging tight. Definitely not a reflection on how these meetings will go. And we just appreciate you guys. And yes, sorting is hard. Yes, it is. So
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lauren. And we hope to see you again next month. All right. And we will send we will send an edited video out after we are done with that, with the email as a follow-up. Thank you so much, y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.